welcome to the Mime Radio Show podcast. I'm Karen Hoyer.
And I'm James Donlin. We're very excited today to have a wonderful guest. But before we do that, let me introduce the guy that's hidden somewhere behind the black frame around us in the Mime basement is Michael Diaz, our producer, the guy with all the buttons and the consoles and the bright lights and the fingers of dexterity that controls our lives. So we thank Michael for being here with us and the work that he contributes.
He has the skills to make us look good, James.
Right. So I'm in Camarillo, California, close to Los Angeles, and Karen is in
Chicago, Illinois.
And our guest comes from Italy. Let me read you something about him and his work and his company before we welcome him in. Tom Corradini Teatro is a company engaged in theater, visual comedy, and modern clowning. Founded by Tom Corradini in 2010, it offers shows for adults and adolescents suitable for international audiences, with gestural theater performances in English, Italian, and French. In the years, the company has enlarged its activities in the educational field, developing online learning projects, and in the artistic direction of multicultural events, overcoming linguistic barriers. Comic actor, clown, musician, and theater producer Tom Corradini is a multi-talented performer and writer. His original performances have appeared in numerous festivals and venues across the world, receiving many awards for their topical scope and inventiveness. Examples are the satirical comic show Gran Consiglio Mussolini, where he plays Benito Mussolini, the only theater ever staged in Italy having as its sole protagonist Benito Mussolini, and Virginie, a performance about cyberbullying and teenage suicide. Brexit is about the relationship between a father and son a few days before the referendum. Tom has created performances about gambling addiction and about the relationship between sex and food and the liberty of living in our own body. Tom produces Festival Physico, and I would say that this is probably one of the few physical theater festivals of note in the whole world. Alba International Physical Theater Festival, and we'll talk to him about that later. He's also a musician, writing the music of most of his shows and video film producer. Prior to theater, he pursued a career as a scriptwriter, writing 3 features, a soap opera pilot, and experimenting in video art. He is currently working on a documentary about cyberbullying and teenage suicide, which will probably never be edited. He doesn't have time, but which is entirely shot in the summer of 2020, titled The Tunnel. So with that, let's welcome in Tom Corradini. And there he is, passing through the ether.
Hello there. Welcome, Tom. Hello, welcome so much. I'm so glad that you're here with us today on the Mime Radio Show podcast. This is fantastic.
And it's my pleasure to be here with you guys.
Tell us exactly where you are, Tom, like what town or village or city.
I am in a hamlet, I would say. It's the name actually is quite famous because the name, it's Cinzano, like the drink. Cinzano, I guess you would pronounce it.
Yeah.
And but it's a very, very small hamlet, 300 inhabitants. I basically live like on the top of a hill. It's a nice place, but I've been on a lockdown since 2016, basically. So
yeah.
So wow. It's nice, great food, and it helps me concentrate and focus. But it's literally in the middle of nowhere.
But we are so lucky for this medium of Zoom that we can talk to people all over the world and have these conversations. So we're so glad that you could join us this way.
Absolutely. And, ironically, this is one of the side effects of the pandemics.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And normal. Before, I didn't even know what Zoom was. So.
Right.
you and us both. Exactly. Yeah. In fact, Tom and I met each other last year over Zoom in another conference or interview that we did together. So anyway, welcome, Tom. Welcome.
So Tom, you wear many, many different hats, but I want to talk to you first of all about your performing hat. Yeah. When you perform, and you perform for a variety of different audiences, different ages, different types of audiences, and you also have a variety of different kinds of shows, pure comedy, physical comedy, and scripted shows. But when you, as a performer, prepare to go out on stage, what is the thing that you do to prepare?
You know what? Well, first of all, just backtracking for a sec. More than a performer, I'm a writer. Actually, I never envisioned myself as a stage performer at all. This is really bizarre. And everything that happened in my life was something which was like unscripted. And so I'm getting to the point right now, just to give you an idea, in 2019, before the pandemic hit, I did 106 shows just in 2019. So it was becoming, I know it doesn't sound very exciting, but like a real job, like every time. And what is really bizarre, I know maybe it's not romantic, but there's a moral in this story. Basically, I got to the point where I was so tired, also writing shows and stuff like that my internal conversation right before the start of a show was like, why am I doing this? I don't want to do this. I don't want to go on the stage. This is boring. This is not, I should have been a postman or something like that. And then, but this is really bizarre. As soon as you walk on the stage, something clicks. And this is a big mystery. And all this lack of energy that you kind of felt like 10 minutes before, disappears. And there's like a demon possessing you. So in a way, in a way, I do comedy. My mind is a horror movie as well. And when somebody talks about theater, oh, you're so lucky you're doing theater. I say, no, you don't understand. This is a curse. This is not. This is not. Yeah. No, I'm serious about this.
No, I've felt this myself. There's a love-hate relationship, when you.
Yeah. I don't know, and it really changed the trajectory of my life as well. So in a way, it kind of feels I'm doing this not for myself. I'm doing this for, I don't want to get into spirituality, whatever, but some kind of a higher force that is using me as a puppet and probably will discard of my body as soon as it's not working properly or something like that.
So now this moment of we're talking about the few seconds right before you step in front of the public. Is it what goes through your mind and your body, before the demon strikes in? Do you open your chest?
I became very aware of my self-conversation in 2012, in 2012, and for a number of reasons. And in 2011, I started doing meditation just because, you have this internal conversation, but you're not aware of it most of the time. And so what I actually do, I meditate, like even 30 seconds. That's what I do, trying to empty my mind. Especially if you're doing a performance over and over, that kind of internal dialogue really kicks in. And thanks to another guy, which, is a professional clown. His name is Paolo Nani, so I must give him credit for that. I kind of, you kind of discover that it's never the same performance. It's the same performance in your brain, but actually, it never is the same performance. And the best example I can give you is a book, and the book is titled "The Art of Archery." It's a very famous book. You probably know it, and it's about written by a German. Forgot the name of the writer. Basically, it's a story of this guy in Japan who takes up archery, Zen archery. And, Zen archery looks very easy. You just need to pick up an arrow and just shoot it. That's it. But that movement, which looks very easy, it can be broken down in millions, if not billions of single fractions of movements, and it's never the same. Now this sounds, in English, you would say arty-farty, but it is true. I mean, but it is true in a way. And you kind of realize it's never the same. But what is very important is to empty your mind for a second. Just empty your mind and let the demon possess you in a way. So that's what I do. I literally meditate, even 30 seconds.
So when you I was really intrigued by the clown partner show that you did. I think it's called the Lehman Brothers.
Yeah.
With your partner, and his name is Michele, is that right? Michele.
Michael. That would be Michael in English.
Didede. Is that how you say his last name?
Dideda, yes.
Dideda. the two of you are very funny together on stage. When you have the chance to perform that show, or looking back to when you did perform that show together, did you have like a partner kind of a warm up or a connection that you had before you went on stage?
It's a big problem for me because I and Michele, we have a very strong connection. We're actually going to do this show in March in France.
Oh, great.
And even too much, which is a problem. Why is no? But seriously, first of all, it's a very positive guy. He's got 4 kids and is a great mime artist, even better than I am. He's very much into the detail. I tend to look at the general picture. So that's
a good match. That's
a great match. You want to be with somebody who's the opposite of you. And so we are the opposites. We are opposites in many different ways. And I really like performing with him. But that's a problem because basically he's irreplaceable. I mean, there are some shows, where you kind of, the structure of the show kind of makes it possible to change actors. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. But in the case of the stuff I do with Michele, that would be impossible just because of him. Mm-hmm. So it's a problem in a way. So if he's ill, I got to cancel the show. I mean, there's no way I can replace it with anyone else. And maybe vice versa would be possible, but not in the case of Michele.
So is he meditating on the other side of the stage at the same time, or is he like having a drink or
he
eating
does
bananas?
Tai Chi, he paints. There's something, well, I hope I'm not horrifying anyone, but basically in the show, at one point he eats a banana and he spits this banana in this yogurt jar, and I eat it.
I saw that.
Yeah. Well, I can do it with him. Don't ask me how, and it doesn't affect me at all. I tried to do it once with another guy, and I was about to puke. So, seriously,
that's the explanation right there, that you can eat his banana.
Yeah, and it really is a nice marriage. I mean, it's like a marriage in a way, because it's difficult to find. It's difficult to find a very best friend or a partner, romantic partner you want to stay with for a long time, stuff like that. And even in the arts, to find a performer you stick with. And you do the long haul and you travel this journey for a long time. It's not easy at all.
So you appreciate the communal, the connection with other creators with you, rather than being a soloist. I mean, you value or what do you think?
This is a common question, and really, to say the truth, is. I don't mind being solo. To tell you the truth, I'm working on a new solo show. I actually applied to 7 fringe festivals with a show I don't have. And I'll tell you the story if you want to later on. Just stick with me. I stick with Michele. Have you seen the movie Platoon?
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think so. I haven't.
Yeah. Well, at one point, there's William Defoe. There's they're in Vietnam and so on and so forth. And
what's it called? Which show? What movie are we talking about?
Platoon.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, sure.
Well, at one point they're in the middle of the jungle, and there's I think it's Charlie Sheen. I can't remember the name of the other actor.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And basically they're about to, just to cover this area together. And William Defoe at one point tells him, "No, I gotta go by myself because I'm faster that way." And I think that's the difference when you do solo. In comparison when you are with a partner or with several partners. When you are a group, everything is kind of slower. It may be deeper and it may be less tiring when you're performing. It certainly is, okay? But when you are solo, you're basically responsible for yourself. So it's a nice feeling as well. So just to give an example, to get the nitty-gritty details of the theater word, you can say, well, hey, there's a festival there. I don't know, that can be anywhere. There's a festival in Iceland, and I'll go. And I will not pay myself. That's another thing, because if you are with other people and around a theater company, of course, you must pay them and they got to live as well, stuff like that. But when you are by yourself, I think the beautiful thing is you're just responsible for yourself. So that gives you that kind of freedom where you can experiment.
That's a great.
With other people, that's the only difference.
That's a great description. I feel the same way about it. Yeah, you can go faster. And now here's the question. So after the demon has entered your mind or your chest or your hand, and you step in front of those lights, and you see the public in front of you, the faces, either the younger generations or the old jaded adults. What
Mhm.
what is that audience to you? What does the public represent to you? Or does it change with the age of the audience? Who are those people out there? What?
Well, before I answer this question, okay, yeah, but this is important. I've got like something like a split personality. I mean, what you see right now is not the person I am on the stage, okay? And for example, I tend to never to smile when I'm my normal me. I'm I look at a very serious person. In films, I did a couple of films, and they always take me for the mean role, the really bad guy, stuff like that. Although I do clowning, so it's really bizarre. So with the audience, for me, it's an exchange of energy. First of all, it certainly is. Everybody who's on the stage knows that. It's I tend to give myself to the audience. So I think one of the faculties I've developed, throughout all these years of being on the stage is being able to listen to the audience. That wasn't easy at the beginning. At the beginning was me. It was me, and I wanted to make an impression, and you gotta love me. I think everybody who's on the stage is slightly deranged in his own or her personal way, okay? So at the beginning it was me, and then I lost it. And then I go to the point where it's like, I love you. This is great. Every time I remember I did this show with two people in the audience, like these really bad stories. I did shows with 700 people, 800 people. I think the max was like 1,500. It was like this huge theater. But at the same time, I did a show with 5 people in the audience, 2 people, 3. And you know what? I right now I got to the point where I really don't care. I mean, when there aren't that many people, and that has happened, I just say, hey, it's great with you. It's like, guys, I'm with you. I introduce myself. This is we are friends. Let's have this. You're very lucky. I cannot turn the table. You're so lucky just to be 2 or 3 of you with me and stuff like that. Just to give you an idea. So yes. No matter what the size of the audience, I tend to adapt. And certainly I would say that I do schools as well, but I kind of specialize in teenagers. So let's say 14 up to 19, 18. In Italy here, students stay in high school up until they are 90 years old. And I would say, what is great is that shows that work with teenagers usually and almost always work with adults, but not vice versa, because teenagers are like adults, but with a lower attention span. That's what I usually say. But they're very quick. The mind is just like, blah, 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 blah. And especially, 14, 15, they're not children any longer. They want to be intellectually engaged and stuff like that. So I would say the 2 different audiences. Certainly, it's a good gym to be with teenagers, and I like to be with adult audiences as well. I must say I'm not at all specialized with children. Like I never did a show for children, although in my shows there are children sometimes as members of the audience, especially with the shows I do with Michele Di Dedda, which are the 2 silent comedy shows. There's always children, but they're not written for children. They're written for adults, but they kind of work with children as well. So yeah, that's the thing. Probably.
I have a really specific question about some of your pieces, specifically, like for instance, the one that you wrote that's about Mussolini, and it's a very strong scripted. You're a script writer.
It is.
So it's a very specific script.
Yeah.
So is there still room in that type of piece that you do for improvisation or connection to the audience or pauses or interactions, or is it pretty severely scripted?
Well, when I write shows, I tend to say that I always weave the same basket. It really is. So what I'm saying is this: I write a character, font Times New Roman 16, and I know that pretty much when I have 22 pages, it's an hour-long show. So what I'm saying, there is dialogue and there is script, but there's lots of physical plays in between, which you can't see in the script. So if you read the script, it actually looks like a boring show. It really looks boring. It doesn't look funny at all. What is funny is the physicality of what I do. That's a great advantage. I discover with time, because you cannot discover things by doing them. You don't know them before you do them.
But see, I was going to say that's a challenge. It's interesting if you look at a theater script versus a film script. Mm-hmm. The film script is much more sparser. The language is less. It's simpler. Where a theater script, especially through history, has been very dense with words. But what you're saying, what you're saying is very true. Like the best scripts are the ones where the physicality or the moment of being are allowed to come in between the lines. And it's a marriage between being and, being present and speaking. So I think what you're talking about is very true.
Unfortunately in life, I had to take several directions. So I started as a script writer and then I discovered physical theater. And that for me, that was because I didn't like prose that much. I mean, I went to see theater shows, but prose is very engaging intellectually. You really have to think what a person is saying and stuff like that. And when I discovered physical theater, for me, it was like, just a moment of enlightenment, just because physical theater is very cinematic and it really looks at times like films.
Yeah.
You can use silence and you can use moments where you don't say anything at all and you're just doing something. So my scripts, like I said, they tend to be, I've looked at other theater scripts, other plays, and there aren't that many words. I mean, there is dialogue, but like I said, in between, there's lots of stuff I do and lots of clown games and stuff like that. So it's more towards a screen, I'm more lean towards screenwriting than writing prose as novelist or anything like that. That's what I would say.
But as you say, I was going to say, as you say, that's fits more with the genre of physical theater and clown.
Yeah. But the thing I discovered in time is I can do the same play. I'm a polyglot. I speak several languages. I can do the same exact play in different languages because the play is not linked to the words. So, so if you do if you really are attached to the words, like a joke, for example, okay, maybe funny, but then you translate the same joke in another language, it doesn't work at all. But if it's the physicality of it, then you can do it in several other languages. So for example, the Mussolini show, I did it in English. I actually wrote it in English the first time, Italian, French, and now I have it translated into German. And I know it's gonna work no matter what. If Virginie, for example, I wrote it in English and there's another version in Italian, but it could work out in French and Spanish and whatever, because it's not what we say, but what we do, which is very important. What we say is important, but like I said, what we do, it's a foreground and the words are in the background. So it's much more, my shows are much more like films in a way.
So I want to get back, I just want to finish because you're touching upon it now. So you have this sort of universal statement, expression of art that people can understand with different languages. So the original question I had was, who are the people out there? So I'm not talking about whether they're old or young. I'm talking about what does the humanity in that public, what does that represent to you? That's the word I'm saying, because you're talking about a very universal form of theater and art that plays through many different parts of the world. So those audiences, whether they're German or French or Italian or British or whatever, what is the commonality in there that you?
The commonality at the base ground, I mean, the really basis is, I think, emotions. That's it.
So so the public for you is a soup of emotion and something that you need to contact.
I think physical theater, clowning is very primordial. Mm-hmm. It is. Primordial is a word. I mean, we all, no matter what culture we come from, we all cry, we all feel the pain of life or living this word, heartbreak. I mean, it's the same all over the world, more or less. Of course, there are differences in culture. Mm-hmm. And for example, I never performed in the Middle East because, in the Middle East, as far as I know, you cannot do a scene where somebody's drunk. For example, it's like a big taboo. And
does that apply to like just some kind of substance that's changed your?
No, I just remember I met this guy. He organizes stuff in Dubai, and he told me, "You can do whatever you want, but no sex no alcohol, and there was a third thing, probably no swearing or something. I don't swear in my show, so it's not a problem for me. But what I'm saying is, for example, in the Lehman Brothers, at one point, the two bankers go to a bar and they get drunk. You can't do that in Dubai. It's just like it's a no-no. Okay. Mm-hmm. So these are like cultural differences, but at the same time, the basic emotions, like I said, they tend to be the same kind of all over. So I would say it's very primordial. So, and the fact of having an audience, members of the audience coming from different geographical locations, stuff like that, keeps you at a level. And I think that's what's great. For example, I know I'm making a complete different example about, Shakespeare, not the kind of Shakespeare where we imagine, the words and the prose and so on, but the basic story. I mean, the themes, jealousy, envy, suicide, Hamlet, depression. I mean, those emotions are very universal. And that's what I think is great about Shakespeare. So I'm not speaking about the prose, I'm speaking about the foundation of of the most famous plays. Okay.
Yeah, that's very interesting because, I was trained as an actor back, 60 years ago, and I always felt the British were, had a handle on Shakespeare, but it wasn't about the words so much. It was about the guts of being human. Like there was the physicality and the passion within British performances, where the Americans tended to like focus on the prose. And I think Americans totally missed the point, in a way, like it's, I hear the language has become secondary almost to the British, and yet it's their language. You know what I'm saying? So it's very interesting.
I always tell that to people. I'm not an expert on Shakespeare, first of all. Sorry I brought this up, okay? It's not my kind of theater. But I'll give you an example, and what I usually say to people is Shakespeare is much better in Italian than it is in English. Well, why is that? Well, it's very simple. Because some translator took the play and had to translate it into Italian. As soon as you do that process, it gets modernized. Because the person translating Shakespeare is an Italian of the 20th century or 21st century. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So in a way, I think Shakespeare is great in German, but not, I'm sorry, take offense to that, rather than English. Because as soon as you do it in English, oh my God, it's a form of idolatry. It's like God. You can't. It's like the Bible. You don't want to.
Yeah.
Verses of the Bible. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then that brings some kind of heaviness. So if you watch a Shakespeare play in Italian, I'm sure it just sounds. You immediately understand what the guy is saying because he's using.
There you go. Yeah.
Modern language, like it or not.
This makes total sense. So I was going to say. I just have a side question. So your English is excellent. So are you we're talking about language and different cultures, or are you as articulate in other languages, or is this sort of a representation of almost like physical theater, how the expression becomes articulate in different ways in different parts of the world?
I do plays in French. The Mussolini show I do in French. I speak Spanish very well, almost as well as my English and Italian.
Muy bien.
I am a polyglot. I'm studying Greek right now. Before we got into this Zoom call, it's my 7th language. And
do you feel that language is a gesture? I do. I feel like language is a gesture, and words are a movement. You know
what is strange? I think this is very philosophical. I don't know if we want to get on this, but
of course,
basically, it's an aspect of reality. How we see reality through words, okay? And I kind of, as you learn in languages, you kind of understand it's not the same reality. It just changes because language brings with itself philosophy, a perception of the word, and so on and so forth. So just to give you an example, there was a point I started studying Chinese. I don't speak Chinese, but I started studying Chinese. I studied Chinese for 9 months. And I kind of, and really, I got lost because once I started studying Chinese, I started studying Oriental philosophy, religion, Alan Watts, Zen, and then I got lost. I said, okay, that was the worst. I should not have studied Chinese. But what I'm saying is, for example, English, French, Italian, Spanish, no matter, all these sort of languages that come from Europe tend to have attached with them Greek philosophy. So we use a lot of words, like complicated words that, we don't even know the meaning of them, like eschatology, eulogy, syncretism. I mean, you name it. The Chinese don't have that many words. Mostly they use ideograms and so on. It's a question about philosophy. It's a matter of philosophy as well. So I kind of found out that they interpret the word through metaphors, okay, and proverbs. China is very famous for its proverbs and stuff like that. And I kind of realized, my goodness, they got another perception of reality. It's completely different from mine. I'm not saying it's better or worse or whatever. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. And for example, when I started studying German, one thing about German, it just makes your thought very clear. The language, which is asked a bunch of Asian students once, which language they preferred, European language, and they said German. And I said, why is that? Well, because it's very easy to write. Once you know the rules, immediately it's so clear, and there's no way you can make a mistake in German. Just impossible. So yeah, so I'm a very curious person. That's it. And
so Tom, we're talking about all these languages that you're studying.
I'm sorry, but
no. I want to sort of go back to you told us that you studied at the Lecoq School, and I want to know about your experience there at the Lecoq School and how it changed your life.
It changed my life. I did not study at the Lecoq School in Paris. I studied at this school in Turin.
And the name of it is?
Atelier Teatro Fisico, or run by an American guy from Colorado. His name is Philippe Radice, who was a student at Lecoq in Paris. And like I said, I hit the wall.
Wait, the founder's from Colorado. He studied in Paris and he opened the school in Italy.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Since the 1980s, something like that.
Yeah. What's his name?
Basically, I happened to be there accidentally because I wanted to do a clown workshop. So I did a clown workshop for a week, and I hit the wall. I had the wall with stand-up comedy because I did stand-up comedy for 6 or 7 years, and I said, I really like this because first of all, it was fun. Lecoq is fun. It really is fun. I mean, I will not go through all of it, but it really is fun. And if you like physicality and so on, it's a great way. And also, it's not an acting school, really, Lecoq. I think it's more directing and writing school because people are really forced to write their own stuff. That's the first thing. It teaches you how to create in a way. It's a school on lateral thinking. And then I remember there was this guy, after I did like 6 months of the school, I went to see, I spoke with Philip and I told him, you know what? I think I really hate you. I was serious. It was, why? And I said, well, because before I entered here, my word was really small. And, I was really focused on what I was doing. But then I entered the school and I just, realized I can go in so many directions that I feel lost. And I kind of become hyper creative, which is not good, by the way. Because you don't want to be too much creative. Do you understand? You kind of lose. It's like losing touch with reality. So I said, "Damn you! You ruined my life." He laughed, of course, but he really did. So after 3 years in this school, I said, "Well, forget about it. I'm just gonna be. I'll either be a pro or this is gonna end up badly." So I finished the school and I changed my life. At the time, I'm an engineer, by the way. By the time I was teaching, I taught in high schools for more than 10 years. And I after the school, I said, I just got to do this full time because otherwise.
What were you teaching? Were you teaching physics or something?
No. I was doing English conversation. I was an English conversation teacher. Because of my passion for languages, for more than 20 years, I was an interpreter, translator, and so on. Although my background is technical.
But that also informs us about, because you have this affinity for the teenage years. So these years as a high school teacher may have informed you how interesting that world was with these kids, these young minds. Yeah.
High school basically trained me in stand-up comedy because with kids nowadays, no, seriously, with kids nowadays, I don't know about the States. I can tell you what it is like here, but
it's the same, I'm sure.
So basically it's first of all, there's this relationship where you cannot be authoritarian at all, but you got to outsmart the kids, and they respect that. They respect that a lot. So maybe a kid will throw a joke. Sometimes, they're really nasty jokes. But if you're able to throw a joke back immediately or something like that, then you gain the respect. And I always been very fast, like a Robin Williams kind of guy. You tell me something, bang, I'll hit you immediately with something else. So really, it kept me going. And to tell you the truth, like I said, I live in this very small hamlet, and with kids, you always are on top of the new wave. You see things arriving before they arrive. So yeah, even the language, even the way, basically teenagers invent new ways of expressing, new words and way of expressing things and stuff like that. So new vocabulary.
So you have this affinity for comedy, stand-up comedy, being a teacher that has to entertain students. Physical comedy is like what you studied in school with Radice. Is that how you say his last name? Philippe Radice?
Philippe Radice, yeah, exactly. It's American, by the way, but it's got this Italian surname.
Yes, right. But you have written very serious subjects.
Yeah.
Like really like getting into some serious things like cyberbullying and banking and Brexit and Mussolini, dealing with the Italians' perception of Mussolini and how it's changed. Why do you go for these very serious?
Because it's a curse. Because I try to do the easy stuff and I pick up this glass and everybody laughs and stuff like that. I try very hard. Something sucks me back to. I'm not very happy about it. If you tell me, I'm not saying, some people say, oh yes, because the word is bad, so we need to, engage ourselves and stuff like that. I really don't know. Maybe it's a Catholic upbringing. I have no idea whatsoever. So what I'm saying is, and actually, I envy people that in a way don't have this sort of intellectualism behind them. I try to make my work as light as possible, okay? Mm-hmm. But you know what? I found out with time that the fact that whatever you do has got some kind of depth, at the end of the day, is appreciated by the audience. I mean, if you don't patronize people, okay? If you don't go there with your vision of the world and stuff like that, but you say, we can discover something together, and I think people appreciate that. Yeah. That's what people always told me about my shows. So, and it comes probably from my intellectual background as a teacher and stuff like that. But like I said,
you want your audience to be thinking when they leave the theater, way, not just saying, "Oh, that was nice."
No. How do you define what you do? Is there if I was, didn't know anything about you, what would you say who would you say you were, and what do you do?
After many years, I try to find my own voice, because I would say for any kind of art, music, paint, it doesn't matter. The biggest strive, the biggest challenge is to find your own voice. So that's why you need to experiment in various areas and so on.
So you're a voice explorer? You're a voice explorer? How do you describe what you do?
You never stop learning. I think you never stop learning.
So you're an astronaut. You're an explorer. I mean, I'm just like, how do you perceve yourself when you're?
We are explorers. We are in this mega ball spinning. I don't know, the velocity of the Earth's rotating orbit, or whatever, and everything is moving fast. We have the illusion of stillness, but everything is changing. I think, Mussolini used to say, I'm sorry, I'm bringing this up, but chi si ferma è perduto, which translating means the person who stays still is lost. Or there's also a passage from Nietzsche that an artist is like a funambulist. As soon as he stops, he's gonna fall. And I think great artists never stop. That's what I think, which is very, very difficult, especially if you have success, which is not still, I would say I've got success in what I do. I'm not a celebrity or anything like that. But what I'm saying is, because every time you experiment something new, you start from scratch. Of course, you've got experience, so you tend to make less mistakes. But there's always a danger that what you do is not nice, or is not, does not appeal to the audience. So it's
your life, it seems, has many different facets. So your theater performance life is not your whole life. There's this other pre-performance, pre-writing world that has informed. I mean, it all works together. So would you say that this is just transitory now, and you may, if change is the only constant, you're moving to another level at some point that may be the first person on Mars? I don't know.
Before COVID, COVID had a great impact in my life, I think, spiritually. Mm-hmm. Sorry if I bring it up. I know everybody wants to forget about it. And
tell us how. Tell us how it's impacted you, and how it may have impacted others.
I personally, it really cracked me inside. It cracked me open like boom. What do you mean?
Cracked you open? Cracked you open?
Yeah, cracked me open.
Yeah.
Like I was in a point in my life where I was doing lots of shows and stuff like that. I was taking a certain direction. Then COVID came, and bang, it just changed everything. And I feel like something has cracked, and I've not been able to glue it back. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not a very intellectual person. I'm just saying spiritually, it cracked me open, and there's something and right now, for example, if you ask me, will I do what I do 10 years from now? I'm not even sure. I'm experimenting new things. I mean, films, because my love of screenwriting and so on and so forth.
So you don't want the crack. You don't want the crack to come back together necessarily. You want it to keep open or to expand even.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like I said, so before, you know what, you kind of project yourself into the future. That's everyone. I think man, when I say man, it means humanity in general. Man or woman in general doesn't strive for liberty. Listen to this. I think the majority of people strive for security. I think it's something innate. You want to be in control, want to have a house, want to control the environment. Okay. So there's always a big conflict between liberty and security, because liberty, I'm making these film examples. I think a great film is I forgot the name of the film actually. Oh, Jesus. I know it's in Italian. It's about this guy that goes to prison wrongly and basically stays in prison for 10 years and then escapes from prison. And in the music, in the film, there is when they are in prison, they say about they use a word in Italian, because I watched the movie in Italian, which is you get institutionalized. So you're so used to do something all the time the same way when you're in prison. But a prison can also be office work 9 to 5. A prison can be a job. A prison can be being a tenure professor at university. I mean, you name it. So you are in this situation, and then
how is that different than? So that's secure in some ways.
No,
but how is that maybe not so? How is that negative, perhaps?
No, but this is important. Once you start getting into this sort of routine, then liberty comes, and liberty would be, okay, I am free of this, and I can do whatever I want. But that creates a big problem. First of all, fear kicks in because you're trying something new, and the second thing that kicks in is loneliness. There's a famous American poet who lived in LA, and I'm sure you know it, Charles Bukowski. Okay. And he used to say, you wake up whenever you want, you go to bed whenever you want, you do whatever you want. Are you free or are you alone? You understand what I'm saying?
Did Fellini influence you at all?
Fellini?
The film?
I wouldn't say that. I think by and large, I was influenced a lot by films. My generation was heavily influenced by films.
Right.
So, and I would say visual arts. I loved Almodovar, the first films, Dali, the painter.
Yeah.
I always have this. I'm a very carnal person. I drink, I eat. I don't smoke. I used to smoke, but I'm not vegetarian. I like the word. I like sex. I like everything. I'm a very passionate person about life.
So when I say Fellini, that didn't. That's just one artist among others in Italy that might have influenced you, because of the things you just mentioned, his films represent,
Yeah, in a way, but his films tend to be very, very long.
Yeah.
But there was I don't know. And I was more, if I had to choose a director that really influenced me and I found really appealing, was Almodovar, the Spanish one, because it was like, wow, so much blood in what the stuff
very
was
visceral
doing.
kind of.
Yeah, I like and I love American films. If I not the nowadays films, but all the films up to the 80s, I would say, probably late 80s. Some of them are great. Orson Welles. I remember. Was that The Border? I think is it called The Border? I can't remember.
A lot of films today. I think the American cinema is somewhat in trouble because I think most of the great films were of the past.
It's not about American
now they're
cinema.
all video games. Now it's mostly
exactly.
Games.
It's not about American cinema. It's about the industry in general. I mean, you guys, you are in LA. It's just changed so much, and the art house is dead. So there's not the possibility of sitting down somewhere just enjoy. Cinema for me was like. I remember some great depressing moments of my life, like really depressing, and some great moments of my life was a moment where I could stay by myself as well. I remember this very particular, it was like back in the 1990s. It was like a bad day. I was like, I think I was really depressed, whatever. And I went to see a movie just to escape, from my problems and stuff like that. But it was a nice moment for me. I could escape, that was great. Lights off. I'm by myself. I watched this movie and let my fantasy fly. I think that experience does not exist any longer now.
Well, the physical, like you said, physical theater is cinematic. I mean, it's the same brain. Yeah. What are some of your favorite projects? Like Karen was mentioning, we have Brexit. We have, all these, pieces about teenagers and their challenges. Like do you have a favorite bankers? I mean, is it all interesting to you, or is there a particular, like you've mentioned something about performances for younger audiences?
Yeah, and tell us, you were starting to tell us about this show that you've offered to the festivals that's not written yet.
Okay, right now I'm on this show.
What are you working on now?
No, I'll tell you what happened. In last year, basically, I had like a burnout because 2020 was terrible for me. I think a majority of people found the same experience. Although I was not performing that much on the stage, I worked twice as much on ideas. I mean, everybody, I think one of the most common problems in 2021 with COVID was back pain, because a lot of people were just sitting down in front of their computer and doing stuff and so on. No, seriously, I'm not kidding. And so literally, I had like a burnout. My brain went flat. So after the Alba Festival, I didn't want to perform. I just, because I was brain dead. And then in this very small hamlet, she's the girlfriend of the mayor of this hamlet. For the same patron of the hamlet, she asked me whether I could do a performance. And I said, well, I'm not going to do one of my, stand-up performances, because usually, I get paid a fee and stuff like that. It's just like, but what I can do, I can take this character I used to experiment with in 2014, who is a Shaolin monk, because, if you, with a Kung Fu suit, I look like a Shaolin monk, the bald head and everything. And I invent something with this character. So
is that the superhero show? Is that the show called?
Something that's not listed in the company's website. It's something it's a character I experimented with in Berlin, because I lived in Berlin for 9 months. I could not speak German very well. I didn't know what to do. And at one point I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, well, I look like a Shaolin monk. I'll just be a Shaolin monk. So I bought myself a Kung Fu suit and I was doing these clown gigs with this sort of Kung Fu character, okay? And also, there was a book I read, which was very, very illuminating for me. The book is in German is Shaolin, du musst nicht kämpfen und zu siegen, which means, Shaolin, you must not fight to win. And it's a philosophical book about Shaolin philosophy, which is very, clowning has to do a lot with that in a way. So basically, to make this story short, because it's too long already, I did this half-an-hour performance, and you know what happened? The energy came up, because I had a burnout. And then the energy came up, and I said, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this feeling. It was like going back and 10 years. Because what happened is, as you grow and you do a lot of stuff, you develop experience, you kind of lose that, the freshness when you start things for the first time. Because that's the secret, isn't it? Whatever you do it with the same passion, which is emotional more than physical, okay? And I said, God, I really enjoy this. And then I said, I gotta make this, I gotta transform this into a show. And I have 2 silent comedy shows. One is with 3 performers, and one is with 2 performers, the Lehman Brothers one. And I said, well, I'm gonna do this by myself, which is very difficult. An hour-long clown show, and we're speaking about that before. What's the difference? So I'll have the freedom to do that wherever I want. So I just applied to 7 fringe festivals, giving them the idea of the show, giving them some videos and so on. So that's so that's one thing I'm working on. And then I'm working on another show, which is with 3 actors. I'm on the 3, which is titled Caligula, which is the story of Emperor Caligula, but it's all set in 2021. In the night of the 6th of January 2021, because
yes.
set in a mental asylum. And it's a story of this professor who thinks he's Caligula. So he's just been put in this asylum because he had a psychotic event. And on TV, he looks at the invasion of Capitol Hill.
Yes.
Okay, in Washington. And he says, well, these are the Roman citizens who are trying to storm the Senate to get rid of my uncle Claudius.
Wow.
Okay. In the asylum, in this psychiatric ward, there's him, there's a nurse with a clown nose, and there's a person who's autistic and can only play the drums. And basically, and I want to make this a long show, like 90 minutes if I could. And it explains the whole history of Caligula, of the real Emperor Caligula, but interlinked with modern times. And this guy who's going to play Caligula is actually American. So he lives here in Italy.
So now you have all this awareness of history and human nature and your mental the languages. So your mind is very trained. What do you do? Do you have a regimen, a physical regimen? Because you're doing gestural theater. Do you have a training for the body or not? Or the mind seeps into the body? Or do you have good genetics? Are you a healthy guy by general?
I'm not into how would you say, diets or anything like that at all. Right now I'm drinking alcohol, so I got this.
I mean, do you play soccer? Do you study dance? Do you do Tai Chi?
I used to
wrestle. Do you like row boats? What do you do?
No, I before COVID I used to tango a lot. I like tango. I'm quite a good tango dancer. But not for theater, also because it's nice. It's just the tango scene is very nice in general. So I used to tango a lot. And right now, of course, I stopped. I should go back on board after 2 years without dancing tango. It's going to be hard. Yeah. I walk a lot. I just walk a lot. I did the St. James Way on foot. I went from Italy to France to the French Riviera on foot. I wrote a book about it, which you can find on Amazon.
Wow.
And right now, a bike. I got a bike, but like a really old bike is like I pay for like 70 euro, which is the equivalent of $80 or whatever the exchange rate is. And because it's very nice to bike here. And as a matter of fact, my legs are very stiff because I biked something like 45 miles yesterday. So
wow.
Like, yeah. So
you take, okay. So you're.
I take my time. I just go very slow.
Yeah. And that do you when you're riding the bike or hiking the trails, does your mind come alive? Like when I hike or I ride, when I get out there and do stuff, my brain.
My mind clicks in only if I hike. Biking does not make my mind click at all. I think hiking. Do you know Aristotle, the philosopher?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, his philosophical school was called in Italian peripatetico, which I think in English is peripateticus or something like that, which is a Greek word which means walking.
Yes, peripatetic.
Peripatetic, exactly.
Yeah.
So basically, Aristotle used to philosophize while he was walking, and that's the thing. I think walking really clears your mind. Of any sports, if you ask me, the one I would maintain is just walking, because walking. So seriously, if I am stressed out or something like that, I take a walk.
Yeah.
It's like meditating, really. I take a walk just in the middle of nature, look at, and the best ideas come up, Really, the best ideas come up as either when I'm walking or when I'm waking up early in the morning, sometimes if I'm meditating, that's when the best ideas come up.
Yeah.
So here's
tell us a little bit about your festival, because that's a whole nother hat that you put on, is to produce a festival. And I'm really curious about your opinion of what makes a good festival. So you've performed in a lot of festivals, you've produced a festival. What do you think is the essence of a good festival?
Well, first of all, this
and
is
why have a festival? Also, why have a festival?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the why is important. I think the why is a key word. And so basically, I created this festival in 2020. We're very lucky. We actually did it like 2 weeks before the pandemics hit. Because I was, for two reasons. One, I was dissatisfied with a couple of festivals I attended. And there's a famous Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius, is very famous in the States.
Yes.
Stoic philosophy. So he had this quote, which is, do not pretend other people to be the man you would like them to be, but be the man yourself. So I said, what's the use in griping about festivals? I just do a festival myself. Let's see if I can do it. That's the first reason. So it was like, seriously, that's the reason. I just said, well, I just do it myself. If nobody wants to do it the way I like it. And the second reason is that there isn't any physical theater festival in Italy. There aren't that many around, okay, first of all. And it just started as an idea and it grew up. If you ask me, are you going to do this forever? I hope not, because you know what I discovered? As the festival grew, I'm on my third year, then you got more problems, like, bigger venues and stuff like that. And you get engulfed also in the organization of the festival. So I wouldn't like that to suffocate my creative energy. But so it's a festival.
What are the ingredients for a really good festival? What do you want to put in your festival?
I can speak about my festival, but then I'll go about that in general. This particular festival, we got only one rule. You must do it's a curated festival. We actually pay a fee to the people that come here. Okay, we give them lodging and everything. But the rule is it must be a show that has to be understandable by audiences of any nationality. So either it's a silent show, or if you're using words, I still must understand where you're getting at. Okay, so that's the rule. Great. So we'd have thousands of applications, because if it were a normal theater festival, theater, like a fringe festival, then you get engulfed by applications. So first of all, I think, and that's an answer to your question, a good festival, in my opinion, should be really focused. It's like a restaurant. You don't want to go to a restaurant where they serve you Chinese and Japanese and hamburgers and Mexican food. No, you want to go to the Mexican restaurant. You want to go to the Chinese restaurant, the Japanese restaurant. So I think a festival must have a personality. Seriously. So that's my idea. So, and there are some festivals out there that really have a strong personality. And that's the number one thing, I think, in general, because you stand out from the crowd. You know what I'm saying? And the second thing, that's from the point of view of the organizer. I would also say, from the point of view of the artists that come to a festival, having the opportunity to display their work and finding programmers that may be able to put their work on tour, or that's important, because I wear both hats, so I know what artists want, or their needs, and the needs of a festival. So personality, creating a hub where people can exchange ideas, so programmers, other artists, and so on and so forth. Nowadays, with the fact that people are so used to be on the internet all the time, Amazon, Netflix, you name it, and so on and so forth, I think a festival has to go a bit beyond just the performance, but really involve people outside of the stage as well.
What have you done in your festival to follow that concept?
Well, the first year was very experimental. So the first year was great. It just happened by itself. So we didn't do that much in a way, but people were mingling kind of naturally. And then the second year, we did in May 2021, we had an art exhibition in the venue. So people would walk and also look at the pictures and paintings and so on. We had a cocktail party with the artists, which was open with to everyone who wanted to come and get a drink and stuff like that. We had a moment with the artists where we discussed each other's shows. Mm-hmm. So a moment with ourselves, and everybody was like commenting on each other's show, which is something I've never seen before, to tell you the truth.
Was it civilized? Was it, or did people get kind of nasty?
Oh, it was fun. It was very enlightening. It was great. And also in a situation last year where people did not have that many occasions to mingle because of social distancing and so on and so forth. So that's certainly something I'm going to do again. This year, we go into schools. So I may speak, I may go to high school, speak about a festival, what we do, explain what we do and stuff like that. So that's the future in a way, because I said,
what's your vision for the future? What's your vision for the future? Where do you want to see Physico go?
It sounds like you have underlying all this is that you want to serve the art form too, like to help, build the awareness, the audience, the nurturing the artists.
It's a style of theater which is not very established in Italy. I mean, there are instances, but it's not very established. Also, last year we started video recording some of the shows, and we're going to do it this year. Actually, next week I'm going to Berlin to see the founder of a platform called Dramox. They stream theater shows, and it's very, very successful. I mean, there's many platforms out there, but this one it's actually based in the Czech Republic. The founder lives in Berlin, and he expanding in Slovakia, Germany, and they were going to expand to Ukraine as well. Unfortunately, the Russian invasion happened, and so I don't know. I would like also to continue to experiment with these shows. Let me remind you, these are shows that can be understood by audiences of any kind.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're global shows. So I said, oh my God, if we start recording these shows and put them in a platform where people all over the world can watch them, I can create a conversation which is suitable for these shows as well. That's something that would not be possible with the prose theater.
Right. Is there a danger that the sense of performing live will be lost? Is there any danger of that? Or does it depend on the COVID or is it, I feel that the live performance will always be here, but there's a lot of challenges now. What's your feeling on that? I mean, it seems like your festival, sprung out of that interaction of that we were talking about earlier an hour ago between an audience and a performer. Like where's it going in terms of this, the digital world?
I mean, if you ask me, 10 years from now, it's like music. I think, I think music is a great example. The recording industry has changed a lot, and right now everything is streamed and so on. But music is always out there. People do music no matter what. So I think people will do theater no matter what. It certainly has become more difficult from the economics of it. The business side of it is much more difficult now, everywhere, even in the States. I just see it everywhere. So what I'm saying is, it's much more difficult now to have 7 people touring.
What's interesting though is because of the statement you said earlier that you felt that your festival should support performances that anybody can understand in any part of the world, and yet those kinds of performances can be much simpler. I feel the more extravagant and the more expensive a performance is, the more culture bound it is. I feel simplicity is the key to like transcending the language and the cultural barriers. I don't know how you feel about it.
No. I think the performances first of all, I was surprised because you publish a call and people write you and propose their shows, and it's really shows you say, I'm kind of it's always surprising to see how creative people creative people are, there is a lot of depth in physical theater as well, emotional depth. And not
the key is metaphor and poetry in a sense, right? I mean, it's
there is
the
a lot
metaphor.
of depth. I mean, we had a show about The Lockdown is called the Kaspar Box. It's a story of Kaspar Hauser. It's a true story of this German boy who lived for 14 years segregated inside a room. You can look it up on Wikipedia. And I saw this show and I said, this is a lockdown. For God's sake, I must have this show. So, and we had shows about like one about the conflict between artificial intelligence and the human mind. It's called The Sense Maker. That was the very first edition. A great show. Okay. So, you know, deep themes. And you know what? It just works so much better from the physical point of view, because emotionally it's deeper.
Do you still teach?
I don't. And you know what?
Why is that?
Well, first of all, I do so much stuff. Come on, you want me to teach you as well? Teaching is difficult. Teaching is tough. I really have to concentrate a lot.
So would you say that your performances are educational, or would you, in other words, I always felt that an artist, one of the responsibilities of an artist is to hand down information. So do you feel like the teaching is coming through in a different way to other generations rather than the typical definition of the word?
Well,
in other words, you don't teach workshops probably, and you don't.
No. But that's okay. I understand. Sorry. When you said, are you teaching? I thought in high schools or stuff like that.
No.
So there was a point up to basically now where I refused to teach for one simple reason. Don't get me wrong. First of all, it's for a lot of actors, it's you know, they lean on teaching also for economic reasons to get by, and you know, and I said
I'm talking about it as a concept. Yeah.
I'll get to that.
Yeah.
So and I said no, I don't want to do that. So I kind of refused to do workshops and stuff like that. I said no, I'm gonna write shows. That's what I'm gonna do. Okay. Because that would have been a distraction. Now, for example, probably in June, for the very first time, I'm going to run a workshop in a school. You know, a high school asked me, because they know me, could you run a physical theater workshop in June? Because these kids need it. And I said, well, okay. Because I felt kind of ready right now to transmit some of my experience. You gotta understand that. I mean, you must have something to say, first of all. So I think teaching, and if we speak about teaching theater or, you know, workshops or seminars, is good if you got some kind of experience. You don't want to do that as you're struggling to make it in this world of the performing arts and stuff like that. So right now, I am inclined to do it. Before I wasn't at all. And right now I'm kind of looking forward to do it. And also one thing more than teach, I think one thing I would like to do is transmit my experience. So, which is not just theater. It's not just, okay, we're going to do clowning and that's a clown. No, it's deeper than that. It's like, okay, you want to tour with your show? These are the problems. So something about the production side as well. There's something I would like to transmit. You know why? Because it's something which is missing. You go to a theater school, they teach you acting, great, no problem with that. Clowning, super. Mime, okay. How about organizing a festival? How about touring for a month? The kind of problems you can have when you tour for a month. How about handling money? You know, and that's something I think is lacking. So at least it was lacking for me. And one thing which I regret, given the trajectory I had in my life, is never to have had a mentor. I had to learn everything by myself. And it would have been great to have somebody just telling me, don't do this. And you know what's the difference? I tell that to everyone. Theater school is like going to boot camp in the military before you actually go to a war. Okay. I know it's a bad example, especially nowadays. It doesn't matter.
I understand what you're saying. I understand.
Okay. But then you go to the jungle, you go to the trenches, and the stuff you gotta learn that they're not gonna teach you at boot camp. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I've been through the sand and the blood and the shit and so on. and I think it would be great to pass that experience to other people, especially people who have talent. Because what I notice is talent is not enough.
Where does legacy fit into this? We're talking about transmitting. Are you interested in your personal legacy, or does that mean anything to you, or does it mean nothing, or do you not even think about that?
You know, if you do music, if you do painting, you sort of have a personal legacy because you leave the painting behind. Van Gogh dies, you can still see these beautiful paintings.
Yeah.
You do music, well, there's Mozart is still out there, but acting, theater, I mean, there are exceptions, but by and large, there's no legacy whatsoever. Don't take me wrongly, I'm a very grounded person, but our job, it's in a way, it's the most ridiculous job, because what we sell is words and presence in a way, and it's the most useless job in the world in a way. But at the same time, okay, that's a famous Italian actor used to say that. Totò, it's a famous comedian, and he used to say, what I do is completely useless. Even a carpenter makes something which is more useful than what I do, because at least he can make a chair. You can still see the chair. But what we do words. After we're gone, the words are gone. So, and there's an element of truth in that. So the legacy, I don't think it can be about me, but it's an experience which is transmitted. So when you go to a Lecoq school, probably it was a clown, I can do this. And then you have l'objet trouvé. I don't know who invented it. Do you know what I'm talking about? So objet trouvé, you take an object, you start playing with it and stuff. It's a technique. Mm-hmm. Or somebody discovered that and kind of put that into some kind of
but those are common things, a lot of I think one of the reasons Lecoq has been so successful is a lot of his work is based on common sense and other forms. I can remember doing many things that are Lecoq like before I even know the guy existed.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, there's a common thread that's very, very important that that artists have.
I don't know. I think what we pass on, and I speak about theater, like I said, just theater. It can be the plays. Maybe some of these plays will have a long, sort of long life in a way.
Trajectory.
Certainly, if we list some work on video, that will still, go beyond our life in a way. But really, what I think is more important is to pass on our experience to somebody else who's going to transform it into somebody. It's a never-ending process.
No, what you're saying is very, very important, I think, is because by what we do now, it influences somebody that will make something happen in the future.
Exactly.
So we were maybe the chrysalis, but it's not important that people know what we did. That's what, Yeah.
But there's also that really ephemeral part that you spoke of earlier, which is like during the actual performance, that primordial soup of emotions that has a lasting effect on every single person that's in the audience. That it may not seem tangible, but it's something that you put out there. That's valuable.
Like I said, don't take me wrongly when I say this is what is beautiful about theater. Okay, I think it's the fact, like I said, it doesn't serve any material purpose whatsoever. I don't want to transform it into something too poetic, but at the same time, emotionally, we need it. And in a way, it's like Jesus. You don't live only to earn your daily bread. You must have some kind of purpose in life, something else, something that really pushes you forward. And so it gives color to your life in general. But does it serve any purpose, any stray purpose? No, absolutely not. You can do without it in a way. But that's why I like it. I don't know, because it's a miracle. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
So is this the kind of advice you would give to a young artist, that someone who's interested in the arts or theater or expressing themselves in the world of art making? Is what advice would you give to a young person like that is searching for a direction? Where would they go? A school, a teacher, walk a lot, like eat a lot, have sex a lot? What would be your advice?
It's a tough question. I don't know, because I consider myself still young in a way. Still experimenting.
Right. That's good.
I would say
because you will be a mentor at some point. At some point, the younger generation
that's
will
true.
see.
That's true, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know. I mean, everybody's got his own. I would say trust yourself. Listen to your inner voice.
Yeah.
I can give you my personal case. I mean, nobody actually supported me in what I was doing. All my family was against it, first of all, stuff like that.
Yeah. That's a common story with men in particular.
And it starts with your inner voice. And you really have to listen to that. because you may be born in Albania, you may be born in Mongolia, you may be born in a small hamlet, I don't know, in Indochina, whatever. But that call is for everybody. It really is a curse. I call it a curse. Okay. So if the
what's a curse? I didn't hear that. What's a curse?
A curse, a demonic curse.
What's the curse?
To express yourself artistically.
I see. Yeah.
If you really have it within you, it's something which is going to explode within you. There's a famous piece of poetry by Charles Bukowski. You may want to read it in the next episode of the Miming, seriously. And it's called So. The title of this piece of poetry is So. You want to be a writer? Okay. It's a beauty. I said really tonight. It's not very long. And it kind of explains everything, I think. If it's within you, it's going to explode. So if you don't, even if you try to repress it, sooner or later, if it will not get out of the ears, it will get out of the nose. Not on the nose, the mouth. Yes, it doesn't matter. It will get out. It will get out. So, and in my case, for many years, I lived a false life, which was not my life, because I was afraid. I was really afraid. I was terrified. I was an engineer. So what the fuck? Sorry about the language. I was like, look at yourself at the mirror. You have two people and they're kind of fighting. I don't want to do this. It was really, and then at one point I snapped and I said, well, listen, you know what? Let's do it anyway, And then I took the dive, and I've been very happy since then, which doesn't mean you are in Shangri-La and like, oh, everything is okay. You may pass moments which are really, really bad, but emotionally you become very, very centered. So it's been the best years of my life. I could die tomorrow without any regrets whatsoever. That's the first thing. We don't know how much. Seriously, nothing, zero. You know what? Because I said I've been true to myself. It's like Hamlet. So first thing, be true to yourself. Now, finding your inner voice is very difficult, and certainly you want to meet people that can inspire you. If you're lucky enough, doesn't matter where you are, and certainly, being the smaller the environment is, the worse it can influence you in a way. You can, if you live in a very small village, you say, I don't know, anywhere, even in the States, I don't know, a very small town, small towns, they say, hey, I want to be a mime artist. That's a story of Brexit, by the way. The play, the son wants to move to France to become a mime artist. And the dad, the manager of an advertising agency, says, no way. Because first of all, you're gonna die of utter poverty, and second of all, I hate France. So this is like, it's like a comic show. So yeah.
What's the last, Karen? What's the last? What's another question? What can we ask him? What's left?
I don't know. I think we talked about everything. Well, maybe one last question, Tom. What do you want to be when you grow up?
What I want to be when I grow up?
That's a very appropriate question.
That's a sad story. That's another thing, I'll probably never grow up. There's always a bit of a child within me.
That's good,
though. It doesn't look like, certainly. Yeah.
That's a good thing. Like
that's beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I think, of course, you grow up as, you're a man, there are problems in life, you got to solve them and stuff like that. But the creativity, the inner spark comes from some kind of childish nature, I think. So... this is a great metaphor by Alan Watts. One time I was an avid reader of his books, and there's this legend, I think it's a Japanese legend, that says that dolphins can speak. They're actually able to speak, but they never speak to us because as a animal species, we don't like playing. We're too serious. Dolphins play all the time, and so we got to remember we're dolphins at times, no matter what life brings us and so on and so forth. Then, life is quite easy sometimes. I think it's, we really make it complicated to ourselves, but, it's great.
Well, this has been a fantastic conversation, Tom, and I encourage people to look up your work and to, when traveling is easier again, I hope that people will flock to the Festival Fisico, and we're really appreciative of the time you spend with us. You're quite a fountain of thoughts and mysteries. And it's
thank you so much for being a part of the Mime Radio
podcast.
Please join us in 2 weeks for the season 3 finale, an interview with American Mime Theater's Mark Maislin and Erica Sarzin. Be sure to like and subscribe.